Paul Chan was born in Hong Kong in 1973 into a family that deeply cared about him, because at a young age he suffered adverse effects from the intense pollution of Hong Kong, and in response, the family relocated to the United States, first Iowa and later Omaha, Nebraska. It wasn't long after that Paul headed to Chicago to attend the School of Art Institute from 1992 to 1996, where he graduated with a bachelor's in fine arts. The experiences that he acquired at this school, such as 3 years writing as an editor for the school's newspaper, helped him with his career later on when he first developed his website in 1999. NationalPhilistine.com was the personalized website that started his career, becoming the platform in which he distributed animations, fonts, videos, and other works for free, thereby marketing his name and becoming a more popular contemporary artist. One of his first works on this platform went by the name of Alternumerics. Originally made in the year 2000, an exhibition of this 20-part work was displayed for an entire month in 2015 from April to May by the Slot Foundation. The Slot Foundation is a small and dynamic organization with the purpose of presenting art projects and lectures while being based in Philadelphia, according to their website. According to this group, Alternumerics emerged out of Paul Chan's interest in expanding traditional alphanumeric systems to include the potential for new meaning. The question that came to Paul was, what exactly is a word? And is it capable of describing the world around us? To me, it demonstrates with a bunch of gibberish that we as humans give symbols, which are words, meaning. But even denotations throughout the world from language to language can get lost in translation. For example, an honorific in Japanese simply can't be translated to the word Mr., because there's a cultural implication to the word that makes it more valued in Japan than simply Mr. in America, where their system is all about respect and ours isn't. The toilet in this picture, for example, can make absolutely no sense to some, but maybe to close friends of Paul, it has meaning that actually explains something in this supposed mess of confusion. We will continue to see throughout that Paul's inspirations come from immediate challenges to the world, which is why his themes of art are so different. As mentioned before, Paul's inspirations for art come from immediate challenges to the world. Although it is a good thing to advocate for what you think is right, with it comes adversity and criticism. Paul Chan took a trip to Iraq in 2002 when his opinion on anti-warfare reached its peak. With the help of anti-war activist Voices in the Wilderness, an American aid group that broke U.S. sanctions and federal law by working in Baghdad before the U.S. invasion and occupation, according to VDB.org, Chan's work became increasingly concerned with war in politics. Reoperations of 2002 was the first of his works related to anti-warfare. According to Wikipedia, it was Paul's interpretation of what he imagined members of the Bush administration would look like were they fighting in Afghanistan. It was a video, but given Paul's style, this comes to no surprise. Paul's style, for the most part, is primarily animations, both long and short. This one, on the other hand, was a 30-second short film with variant pictures of Iraq and plain stuff like fire hydrants in the United States. I personally think that this is to make the point that Bush and his administration would be overwhelmed fairly easily and would begin to miss the small things that we typically take for granted, just from being homesick. It seems like a mockery at first, but it doesn't have a single picture of Bush or his administration, so it makes me wonder how exactly an audience interpreted this video. This video can be found by following the link in the PowerPoint. This video, however, did not come without criticism. As Benjamin Genocchio, from New York Times said the following: "The public to which Mr. Chan's video speaks is mostly anti-war. Although, whatever your views on the conflict, you cannot help laughing at what appears to be the voice of Colin Powell reading from the writings of Michael Foucault on the inevitability of history, or Condoleezza Rice at the front line dictating a letter to her family back home. My favorite is a voice sample of Donald Rumsfeld saying, 'We must learn to live with low-density hope.' Paul Chan didn't take this criticism quietly, however. Instead, he responded with the other two works of art that made his famous Tin Drum trilogy. Those works were Baghdad in no particular order, made in 2003. This was a footage that was taken during his trip in Baghdad. And the other one was Now Promise, Now Threat, made in 2005. This video was compiled by footage of interviews of citizens of Nebraska. In particular, the footage was about the political climate of the area, and although all three videos didn't exactly combat the criticism and raise awareness of the Iraq War, he considered the three to be a part of the Tin Drum trilogy because they, quote, fit the room temperatures of the time. Unlike his main works, these were like vlogs, showing the dynamic of art that Paul partakes in. Another work of Paul Chan's that received an exceptional amount of criticism was none other than Sade for Sade's Sake 2. This work of art was inspired by the man named Marquis de Sade, who was a French soldier and writer from 1740 to 1814, whose exposition of sexual perversion gave rise to the term Shadism. This piece was released during his Seven Lights project, in which he experimented with lights and shadows to create art. In this piece, there are shadows on a screen that flicker at random, at times to add or take away part of human figures which are naked and in sexual positions, as well as gyrating. I'm not exactly sure why Paul decided to do this artwork, but if I had to guess, it was to show comparison between a sex dungeon and a prison cell. It is explained through many critics that this work of art is an astonishing long 5 hours and 45 minutes, and is only until the very end where these convulsions begin to happen. In any case, this work of art received arguably the most criticism than any of his other works. Best described and appreciated by Chris Rates, he goes on to describe the scene as nearly life-size shadows, figures stretched across the gallery's back wall, convulsing and gyrating in a state of orgiastic trance. The gamut of sexual encounter and style is depicted: masturbation, oral sex, bondage, straight sex, gay sex, three ways, four ways, rear entry, reverse cowgirl, and what it looks like to be pedophilia. However, at no point in the course of the projection is it clear if these bodies are engaged in a celebration of sexual liberation or torturous sexual assault. Instead of using justifying sentences at the end like Rates did, many others compared it to the abuse of prisoners at Abu Ghraib. Sometimes, for some people, it takes graphic images to get a message across, although I personally think he could have gone about this message another way. Lastly are my opinions on artwork and incorporations of other fields of study. My personal favorite work of art that Paul Chan did was the 35,000 Years of Civilization that served as my inspiration for my most recent artwork assignment. It is a question that I sometimes come across in life when I see unjust things occur or when I partake in spiritual conversations about how there really is a lot of good in the world. I wonder to whether or not the world is going to fall into a dark place or if life will prevail with goodness being the norm among society. In this image, I personally think that Paul found a negative conclusion to the end of 35,000 years of civilization, putting blankets over many bodies, symbolizing the end of humanity. What I didn't mention in my art assignment was that Paul Chan also had an alternative ending called Happiness Finally After 35,000 Years of Civilization, which you also see in the PowerPoint. This one shows a peaceful group of people placed in the center of a forest, embracing the nature and peace that they have finally attained. I'm the same way, where it is hard to predict the outcome of that many years down the road, but instead of being completely balanced like Paul, I tend to lean towards a good outcome rather than a bad one, simply because I don't wish for unhappy endings, especially when it comes to humankind. I love this work because it addresses a problem that we all face and we all can relate to. Yes, it is many years into the future, but we have to take responsibility of the planet for the next generation to come, because that would be completely unfair and morally disturbing on so many levels if we were to ruin the lives of millions of newborns because of sheer selfishness as to how we handle our planet today. Moving on to fields of study, I believe that Paul Chan's artworks incorporate that of anthropology by involving variant cultures in his vlogs. I also think that literature was touched upon within his first works of art, such as Ultranumerics, which prompted us to think about the meaning and origins of language. Finally, I also think that global relations is a big focus point of his works because Paul Chan really advocates for civilization building. He did so in Iraq, in addition to New Orleans after the devastating hit of Hurricane Katrina.